Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is March 4th, 2023, and this is another edition of the MSP Initiative Live. Gonna knock out some quick housekeeping, and then we'll get into the topic of the day. So here we go. If you haven't checked out our new website, mspinitiative.com, nice, pretty, and colorful. You will see sessions, this session and every other session we've ever done or recorded will be in podcast and video format here under the sessions tab. Check out our community mind events. This will be our one in-person event other than other things that we collaborate throughout the channel with throughout the year. So August 13th, 14th in Denver. Please come out, totally free for MSPs to register and join us. There'll be some additional, kind of industry minds, community minds coming together. Here are some of the people that'll be joining us. We really like this format where we're going to actually workshop through ideas so that we don't PowerPoint you, bullet point you, and walk away with nothing to actually do. I can't tell you how many breakout sessions I've ever been on and walk away and I'm like, did I actually accomplish anything here? No. Okay. We also have some community block parties announced. Some of them are up online. We're doing DattoCon in Dublin in June. The community boat party with our friends over at Taylor Business Group in August in Fort Lauderdale area. We'll also be bringing back our big event, not to knock off the big conference from Taylor Business Group, but we'll be doing our larger end of year one in Orlando as well. We also have another one that'll be popping up here shortly in Europe. So stay tuned, now that we've gotten our taste of our friends over the ocean. We have some community offers from some of our vendors here in the sandbox that wanted to throw some cool stuff out for the community. And then we have our industry calendar where we've just consolidated a bunch of things that we keep on getting, thrown into our calendars as things that are happening around the industry. So you can actually submit your own events as well if we're missing any. And that is mspinitiative.com. Today, other than the fact that as a guy who lives in Philly area, don't hold it against me, it's actually kind of nice out finally, right? 60-ish degrees, not, wearing the heavy jacket today, a little sun, no rain. I could get kind of used to that, but then I've been saying that for my entire adult life and still snows every year. I guess I'll figure it out at some point. Our special guest is Curtis from Druva. How are you doing today, Curtis?
Well, I'm doing great. Unfortunately, I live in a beautiful San Diego, but it's apparently warmer there today than it is here. So it was 38 degrees last night.
I don't know how that happens, but I would say that you're
54
definitely
right now.
I think you're definitely winning the nicer weather, competition on the regular.
Definitely.
For and I'm only just a visitor to the San Diego area from time to time as different events roll through the area. I would say that pretty nice view too, right? Right there on the water. So
it doesn't suck.
Yeah, it does not suck. Well, that's good to know that you're from San Diego area. For anyone that hasn't run into you in real live Technicolor, would love to get a little bit of background on yourself, Curtis. Technology industry is wide, but it's not that wide. And I love to hear everybody's journey, right? How they kind of progressed down, memory lane to ultimately get to where you're at today. So let's learn a little bit about you.
Sure. So interestingly enough, when I got out of the Navy, I was in Philly. Oh. And I was at what used to be called Philadelphia Naval Shipyard over there off the Schuylkill Expressway. And I went into IT. Nice. Went into IT. I can't think about sports right now. We lost the national championship last night.
Well, I can commiserate with you because I was at the Super Bowl and I saw my loss too. So see, we got that in common.
Yeah. So I started my career in IT, getting a job as the backup guy at what at that time was the second largest credit card company, which was MBNA down in Delaware. And so I spent 6 years in Delaware half of it in the Navy, half of it working for the bank. And then went into consulting. And my goal was to get out of backups, right? My goal was to be a real sysadmin. And that just didn't work out, right? They put me in. My first job for that company was at the headquarters of what at that time was Amico in Chicago. And I was there to be a sysadmin, but their backups were broken. And so I wrote my first article, basically about an Oracle backup script that I had written. It got published in Unix Review magazine. I don't know if you remember that magazine. By the way, this was in 93, right? 93, 94 is when I got out. And I basically I caught the publishing bug at that point. And within a few years, I had written my first book. And, once you've written a book on a topic, you're kind of stuck in that, in that industry. Somewhere along the line there, I picked up the nickname Mr. Backup, and well, now it's 30 years later, and here I am.
Well, it is definitely an important topic. One that you would think has been talked about and solved and settled, but now it's definitely still part of the security conversation, that's for sure. And there's still a lot of people out there that find out that their backups aren't good in the worst possible situation, because it's like, hey, set it and forget it, but you really did forget about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we could talk about why backups are still complicated, right? There's actually new problems, but one thing that hasn't changed has been that nobody wants that job, right? People do step up for the security job. People do step up to be a sysadmin or a network admin, but very few people want to be the backup person.
Yeah, I feel like it's at this point, it's like an you either have some sort of set software or vendor, or like you get the report at the end of the day, there's some sort of green checkbox. You're like, okay, cool, it's good, and then like you
Yeah,
don't
good
think
enough.
twice about it.
Exactly.
So that's something that you would think is pretty automated at this point, but yet again, maybe not as automated. Maybe automation has maybe created a little bit of a crutch, if you would, right, where people don't actually go and double check.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that it is more automated than it was, and it is less, I think, less error prone than it was, primarily because we moved off of tape as the backup medium. I mean, not everybody, but most people have moved off of tape as the backup medium, and that was a very mechanical device that was, tape was actually and is actually pretty reliable if you treat it the way it's meant to be treated, but most people didn't, and so it wasn't. And we moved off of tape as a backup device, generally speaking, and people are using either on-prem disk or cloud services, and it does generally run if you've set it up properly. It's that first part that is still the problem, number one. And number two, you also have to, you spoke about security, you said backup is part of security conversation. Well, security is very much a part of the backup conversation. It's becoming perhaps the premier challenge of a typical, especially an on-prem backup and recovery system.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about your company. For people who haven't heard of, I hope I'm saying it right, Druva.
You got it right.
Awesome. What's it's a name that I haven't seen pop up, in comparison to some of the names that have been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little background on the company.
So Druva is a Bay Area company that is the leading provider of SaaS-based data protection. Basically, like if you look at any of the reports that people typically look at, like Gartner or IDC, you'll find that that description is adequate. That we are, either a leader or wherever we need to be. But generally speaking, we'll be the only one that is a SaaS company. Many of the companies are starting to have SaaS features or SaaS arms to them, but we are the only one that is that's in that circle that is SaaS only. We have over 4,000 customers. We have, I forgot the latest number, but I think I saw that we do 17 million backups a day. We are basically we're a service that runs in Amazon, and that service is therefore available in pretty much anywhere Amazon has a fully functioning region, right? We do need we're not like some of our competitors do. You're familiar with the concept of lift and shift, right? Where you basically take a VM and you put it in the cloud. That's not us. We are fully designed to the way AWS works, meaning that every part of our service basically starts and stops or scales up and scales down automatically to meet the needs of the customers at that exact moment. And so as a result, that's why I'm saying we need a fully functional AWS environment. But that means that we're in pretty much everywhere they are, with a few exceptions like China, for example, for reasons that I probably don't need to explain.
I think we're following.
What's that?
I think we're following that one.
Yeah, I think you're following. Yeah, we back up. So just a quick summary of what we back up. So we do laptops, mobile devices, data centers, cloud services like AWS, SaaS services like 365, Salesforce, Google Workspaces, and also Kubernetes. And I think I've covered all the things. So that, it gives you a good idea.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it does. I mean, mobile devices is interesting, right? Because I know a lot of people just install the app and sign in and go, right? That, maybe not think about backing up with a mobile device unless you turn on iCloud or some sort of, other service, right? Or something like that.
Well, we're a B2B company, so it's we don't worry so much about the B2C issue. So what we're backing up is corporate data on those mobile devices, right?
Okay, and then as for the rest of it, right? I mean, there's a little bit of a hybridization going on right now, right? I mean, I think we heard the cloud wars, if you would, right? Where they're like, hey, get your stuff out from on-prem. And then we realized, hey, to a degree, the cloud stuff works, and we've but there's a price point barrier that it breaks down on, right? Especially when you go to the big guys, right?
Yeah. I would say that it really matters how you go into the cloud, right? Okay. If you just do the lift and shift, all you did was exchange a car that you were paying for, like you owned, to a car that you're renting, right? And so, yes, it's going to be more expensive. If all you did was just move a bunch of VMs into the cloud, that is absolutely going to be more expensive than what you did down here, right? But if you actually refactored and you first off pick an application that has a varying load, right? Which means not necessarily all applications, right? So pick an application that has a varying load and one that can be essentially turned off when it's not doing anything. Backup is a perfect example of such an application, right? Where basically you're doing it at night typically, and you're not typically doing a lot during the day. So why are you, and there are other services that maybe only run during the day and they don't do a lot of stuff at night. So if you're able to design your infrastructure to use the cloud that way, right? If you can find parts of your infrastructure that aren't, that either aren't running all the time, or if you can tie your cloud cost directly to what you're selling. Let me just give you a perfect example of this is something we do. So where we try as much as we can to design our infrastructure so that when we do more backups, we pay for more stuff, right? We pay. So example, we use DynamoDB as a giant, key value pair database that stores all this information on behalf of our customers. Well, the number of records, we pay for the number of records we put in DynamoDB, which is directly correlated to the number of backups we do, which is directly correlated to our what we're charging, right? So if you can do that, cloud can make a lot of sense for a lot of people, but if you don't do that, then it's just going to be, I really do liken it to the rental car, right? You have a rental car, so you've got a car that's sitting in your driveway 24/7, but you're only using it a couple hours a day, right? You will have a reliable car and someone else will be responsible for maintenance, but it will definitely cost you more.
Yeah. I think part of the problem is, again, from a math standpoint, to your point, right? There's a calculation there. There's also the, all your eggs in one basket, argument, right? And then
Mhm.
there's also the, hey, some stuff just doesn't work as well if it's not close enough to wherever it's being used, right? So like this comes back to the whole, hey, devil's in the details, right? What is the
Yep.
application that I'm using? What is the infrastructure setup of what I'm using? And then shifting for shift's sake doesn't necessarily solve my problem, right? All
No,
it does
that
is
was that. Yeah.
it moves my work,
Sorry.
right? So I think what we've settled on, right, is everything's now very hybrid, right? Maybe not
Hmm.
everything is all in one place for cost, for usability. Maybe that's just, hey, I just don't want to, have a single source of, if Amazon goes down or Google goes down or Azure goes down or whatever. So now there's this high, this data is kind of everywhere, right? We got to worry about information that we need to cover in multiple, formats in multiple places on multiple devices. I know a lot of people love to put all their important stuff in, the OneDrives or the, whatever they're using for their shared storage, right? Or, if it's not the physical server kind of file share. But like, I feel like other than, hey, if we cover all of the important apps, devices, endpoints, like, you know, number one, I want to make sure that the backup actually has the data, right? We've heard of other
Hmm.
solutions where, the checkbox comes through, you see green, you're like, all right, cool, we're good. And then you find out when you go to restore that data, oops, it's not really all
Right.
there, right?
Right.
And then number two, we're hearing a lot of, you know, everybody follows the big, headlines of this breach, that breach, supply chain, this, etc. A lot of these people who are the bad actors who clearly are getting more intelligent and a little bit better at what they do as life goes on. The first thing that they try and hit, if you get hit with the ransomware demand or whatever that it is they also try and hit your backup, right? So that they cover
Yep.
the production data and the backup data, so that you don't have anything to revert back to.
Exactly. And that's basically the point that I'm constantly making, right?
Yeah.
And that has become one of you've basically hit, in what you were saying just now, you basically hit the two big problems with backup today. It used to be, when I was, starting IT, you went to the data center. It was the center of data, right? You went into one place, you're like, those are all the servers, back all those up. Right
Mhm.
now, my stuff is here, it's there, it's in multiple data centers, it's in the data center, it's in the cloud, and some of it's in services. You talked about OneDrive, and I'm fine with people putting stuff in OneDrive. I just hope they're backing up OneDrive because Microsoft isn't doing it for them, right?
Mhm.
So that's the one problem, is that the data's all over the place. The second problem is the security issue, right? So yes, they are absolutely coming for your backups from a ransomware perspective. In fact, if you read many of the stories, you'll see this one line in there, and the backups were also affected, right? It's one little line in a story, but from a from a company perspective, that's a game changer. And unfortunately, again, I go back to something else I said, that nobody wants to be the backup person. Well, that also means that nobody's going to raise their hand, say, hey, is anybody looking into the security of the backup system? Right? Nobody wants to run it, let alone make sure it's secure. I think that if you have an on-prem backup system, it needs to be at the front end of the security line, right? In terms of getting the most recent patches, the most recent techniques, et cetera, whatever it is that you're doing, because it's definitely your last line of defense. And if it goes, then there goes the rest of the company, right?
No, 100%. So what is your company doing special in this area? Because I feel like everybody says they're doing the same things in this category, right? I mean, devil's in the details again, right? They can all claim that the car runs. They can all claim that, you're not going to break down in between A to B, but like what's special at your company that's different from any other company that's ever said, hey, we have backup covered for you?
Yeah. So the big difference, again, I just early on the fact that we're a SaaS provider, right? So basically all of our backups, all of your backups, and any customer that is using us, all of their backups are, of course, encrypted on-prem, then encrypted where we store them, stored in a completely different authentication and authorization system than what they have on-prem, meaning it's stored in our account. There are many providers that will put this in your account, right? But then it's basically, if you pick your favorite backup product and you put it in a VM in the cloud, and then you have to do a VPN between your data center and that cloud in order to do it, you really haven't accomplished anything from a security perspective, right? But if you put that, if it's a completely different service, or if you put the VM in the vendor's account, then it's a completely different security domain, right? Does that make sense?
It kind of
Right.
makes sense.
Also,
Yeah.
the data, unlike most of our competitors, the data is also stored in S3, in a completely different format, meaning that most backup companies store their backups on file systems. Some are starting to use S3. That's all we do. The other is that again, because it's a completely different authentication and authorization system, we're able to build a lot of defenses around it that you can't do otherwise. So for example, the one thing, so we have MFA built into the product, right? But MFA can be defeated, right? You read recently this concept of MFA exhaustion, right? So we said the one thing that would worry us is if a customer, if someone broke through, someone got access to a Druva customer's login credentials, and then was able to defeat their MFA, and then go in and start deleting their backups. So we built in protection for that. So it's not possible to do that. There are two levels of protection. One is always there. One is optional on the part of the customer. The one that's always there is if someone, including you, if someone goes in and deletes a bunch of backups, our machine learning algorithm picks that up as anomalous activity, notifies you, and then says, did you mean to delete a whole bunch of backups? Yes, we did. Okay, have a nice day. No, we didn't. There's essentially a recycle bin for those backups up to a time that you specify, right? That's the one that's always there. The one that's optional is that they have the option of saying that don't make the backups 100% immutable, meaning that that even I can't delete them if I try, right? So that makes them 100% stoppable from anyone, even the worst case scenario of someone gaining access to your administrative account. But all the data is stored outside your company. You think about all of the on-prem solutions out there, as good as their security happens to be, they're just another server in the data center being attacked by whatever it is that's trying to attack your data center, right? We are completely outside of that in an AWS region of your choosing. And so we can abide by data sovereignty laws and things like that, right? It's also like the biggest thing, I think, when you look at it is, with our competitors, you have to design and implement and maintain and secure a backup system. With us, you just have to say what it is that you want to back up, right? You don't have to design anything. You don't have to maintain anything. You don't have to secure anything. Basically, everything is done for you on your behalf. And all you do is pay for what you use, right? It's a true SaaS service where you never pay for something that you don't end up using. Does that make sense?
Okay. So you get to pick and choose what's actually being backed up rather than the whole, is what you're saying.
Well, what I'm saying is yes, you get to pick and choose what you back up, but also you don't have to design or maintain or secure anything in order to make that happen.
So what do I see? Do I see a portal and some sort of
You see a portal, you see a website, right? You see a website, Druva, Druva.com.
Yeah.
And basically you log in as you, and when you're going to back up, it depends on what you do next depends on what you're going to be backing up. So let's say it's a VMware host, you install an OVA that authenticates us into vSphere. You specify what VMs you want to back up, or you can just say back up all of them. And then, go, right? That's the end of your design, your infrastructure involvement. And if you're backing up, let's say 365, you need to authenticate us to 365 so that we have the appropriate permissions to be able to contact that. But you're not, again, unlike everybody else, you're not designing the system that goes into, either from an OS perspective, a storage capacity perspective, and I think most importantly, from a security perspective. You literally just have to essentially point, go get that.
Okay. All right. So it's a little bit less. I don't need to worry about necessarily the plumbing, right? I have this portal. I do this authentication. What if I'm doing something like a legacy workload, right? Where I just have like a Windows or a Linux VM. Do I sign into the supervisor to do that, or is there something?
So basically, yeah, for Windows and Linux VMs, we have an agent.
Okay.
Right. And we also have agents for SQL Server, Oracle, most recently SAP HANA. Now, if you're true legacy like Solaris, AIX, et cetera, that's not our business model.
Okay. How does the mobile device thing work? Is there an app for the mobile device or an agent?
Yeah, that's also an app. Yeah,
okay.
Same thing. App. If it's a laptop, it's an agent. It's completely seamless from the part of the end user. What most people do is they install it, and then they have a policy that applies to all devices, and they just basically get like the My Documents folder or whatever it is they choose to back up across the environment, and then it just runs seamlessly in the to the customer or the end user, if you will. They don't ever notice any sort of performance impact while backups are running.
Okay. I noticed on your website, you have, I can't help but notice, it's like the second thing that I see is this $10 million guarantee.
Yep.
What's the deal?
So basically it's about ransomware protection. Okay. And that, so it is, and there have been several ransomware guarantees out there. We felt that when we came out with this one, what was different about ours was that essentially all we're saying is you have to use our service, right? With a lot of the other guarantees, there were a lot of caveats put in place where you have to remember all that stuff that I said you have to do. You have to secure and maintain patches and all that stuff. Well, because our competitors have to do that, when they have a guarantee, they have to say, you have to make sure that you're maintaining and doing the things that you're supposed to do in order for our guarantee to apply. Well, our guarantee is like, well, you have to actually use the service, right? We can't be guaranteeing something that we're not backing up. We have a few minor things, like you need to be a customer of a certain size, but the size is pretty small. That's about it from a common sense thing that we put in the guarantee.
Has anybody actually taken advantage of the $10 million guarantee?
So in order for you to get if you're saying, has anybody signed up for it? Yes. Right. Has anybody needed? needed to file a claim against it. No, right? Because to file a claim against it, the first thing you would have to have is, that's my boss, by the way, Justin, in the video there. To file a claim against it, you would first have to have a data loss, which is generally not something that our customers have.
Okay. So that's a lot, it's a pretty high number, right? I mean, I guess the value of data is variable depending on who you are and what you're storing, right? But the fact that you're putting that out there, it's a pretty bold statement. And if it's real and you stand by it, then that's a good story, right?
I know that when we came out with it, which was sometime last year, it was about this time last year that we came out with it. Generally speaking, the pundits that looked at it, they felt that it was, one of the more real ones that are out there, that some of the ones that are out there are very clearly marketware or marketingware, right? That they have so many exclusions put into them that no one would ever possibly qualify for it. So, that was the way I felt. I helped craft the policy itself, and we tried to just have common sense exclusions in it.
So would you say your solution is designed around, small companies, medium companies, big companies, managed service providers, everybody? What's the sweet spot?
So first, given your title of this thing, I wanted to let you know that we do have an MSP program.
Okay, well, we're going to hear about that. We're definitely going to hear about that in a second. We'll drill into that.
Yeah,
we can talk
but in terms of size, in terms of size of company, I'll give you both a technical answer and a business answer. Okay, so we use I don't know how familiar you are with deduplication, but it's a core technology in backup. Mm-hmm. And there are two ways to do dedupe. You either do it at the target, meaning at an appliance, or you do it at the source, at the beginning of the backup. Mm-hmm. There are very few companies that do it at the source. We are one of them. Because we do it at the source, and because we have such low impact on both the thing we're backing up as well as the bandwidth needed to back up, we can go as small as you need us to go, right? Meaning we can back up a laptop or a mobile device on an internet connection, on a Wi-Fi connection, right?
Okay.
And in terms of how big we can go, the only thing that limits us would be bandwidth, right? So, but we back up very big companies. We have, some of the biggest companies in the world use us to back up their data centers. But at some point, basically, the number of petabytes, if you've got 20 petabytes of data and, on a 1 gig line, that isn't going to work, right? Source side dedupe does a lot of wonders, but it's not magic, right? But generally speaking, the companies that are larger, the problems that we have with them as a potential customer is that maybe they have some of those legacy workloads that I talked about, and they want to use one product to do everything, right? They want to back up Solaris and VMware and Microsoft 365. And we're like, well, we don't do that, right? So here, there may be a company that does all of those things with one product. But where we do tend to, business-wise, we tend to focus on not the smallest companies, because from just a cost of sale, it can be problematic. And we don't target the large companies, like the super large companies, right? We have plenty of them as our customers, but it's not our target market. So basically that puts us solidly in the middle.
Okay. So let's talk about your MSP program now, because there's a lot of people that have very strong feelings on what an MSP program should or should not have. But would love to understand, if I'm an IT service provider, managed service provider, right, why would I look at your MSP offering versus somebody else's? And how's it structured? Are there minimums? Is there, do I have to sell a certain amount every year to maintain my tier of service? How does support work? All of that jazz, right? Lay it on us.
Yeah. So first off, I will say I am not a specialist in the MSP program, but I'll do my best, right?
Fair enough.
If that's all we were going to talk about, I would have brought on a different person.
No.
But I do know that we have the program is designed to let you, the MSP be in the driver's seat. In that, yes, like any other program, there is a minimum if you want to be a direct MSP. If you're smaller than that minimum, we have a mega MSP that we use that you can sell through. So in that case, that there really isn't a minimum, right? At that, and I don't want to give the number because I will give the wrong number because it'll be what's up in my head and I don't look at it every day. I know that it's in the tens of thousands, right? It's not, it's in the low tens of thousands.
So it's not,
And
it's kind
then
of like it's like a Microsoft setup, right? If you're big enough, you're doing enough volume, you'll be direct. If not, you'll be indirect kind of thing.
right, but the size is based on basically essentially a customer or two should qualify you for the minimum that we have, whatever it is.
Okay.
Right. So
Is
you
the
don't have
minimum
to
spend an
have a huge
annual
volume.
number or a monthly?
That's an annual number.
Okay.
It's an annual
That
number,
makes sense,
right?
yeah.
And then basically that determine what you will commit to an annual number, and that determines your tier, right? But if you go over that, then you have choices to basically renew by additional tiers. One important thing about it is that you don't have to commit to a certain amount of each product that we sell. Your number is a total number, and you can sell or buy that number however you want to do. If you want to sell 100% SaaS backup, let's say you want to do nothing but Microsoft 365 backup, that's fine with us. If you want to do nothing but data center backup, that's fine with us. Basically, the more you commit to selling, the bigger your discount is, and the more you make on what you sell through us. That's pretty much where that you should always be making money from the very start. But the more you sell, the more money you will make on what you sell.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. Volume, dictates a lot. Does the MSP have like a multi-tenanted portal that they manage all their
Yes.
accounts in, and how much self-service is involved here versus actually a human being needs to be involved from your side?
So once the MSP portal is set up, it should be 100% self-managed by the MSP.
Okay, cool. And then of course the big thing these days are compliances, right? Everybody's end users could be across multiple verticals. Can you help them check the boxes, right? For whether it's the medical or the financial or the government or whatever it is.
Yes, but I mean, we have a list of things that we are or are not compliant with, and happy to provide that via an MSP customer.
Awesome. So have you guys been in the MSP? Is that MSP offering newer, or have you been doing this for a while?
So I'll give you two answers. One is yes, we have been. I'm a pretty straight shooter. Okay,
I love it.
We had an MSP program that didn't really work for us. Right.
Okay.
We rebooted that MSP program about a year ago, I think. The new one doing very well. So basically we listened to the MSPs we had before in terms of what didn't work with that program, and came out with the new program.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, I guess one of the the concerns in kind of the sandbox, I like to call it, right? MSP sandbox, is that like a lot of vendors like yourselves, are kind of more mid-market or enterprise that come downstream into this kind of space, and then like they kind of disappear, right? Like they were there. Somebody inside who's counting, who has a calculator handy, right, says, maybe this isn't working, right? And then like you off into the sunset, you never hear from them again. So you guys are kind of taking a second bite at the apple, which is great because there's a lot of business to be done in the sandbox, but in the right way is the best way to say it, right?
Yeah. So I'll tell you this. We are at this point as a company, a company of over 10 years, we are starting to focus on the channel, right?
Okay.
We have our largest I don't know what if I don't know if I'm rebrander. I don't think reseller would be the correct term. Our largest rebrander would be Dell, right?
Okay.
So Dell resells our, so it's rebranded as the Dell, I forgot the name of what they branded as, but their backup product service is Druva underneath, but as a Dell customer, it says Dell. Same thing with our MSP customers. We are absolutely basically becoming more and more of a channel play than we ever have been before, right? We see it as the long-term success of the company.
No, 100%. I mean, like I said, lots of money to be made in MSP land if it's done right. I would say the smaller guys, right? Let me give you a number, like sub 10 employee MSP IT companies. They're not scared to sign up, have a commitment, right? I don't know if you have to, it sounds like for your thing, like it's an annual thing, right? 1 year at a
Yep.
time. A lot of those guys kind of don't like the 2, 3, 4, 5 year lock in, right? Like that
Right.
tends to go counter to their model. And then the other thing is, like there's just certain, Dell is a great example. Not trying to knock on them, but brought them up. Like
Yeah.
they were one of the guys that originally, like, hey, we're a channel company, and then all of a sudden it turned into like, oh, well, we have a direct sales force, and then all of a sudden is, well, anytime we ship something, the catalog shows up in the mail the next day. And oh, by the way, if you deal register your stuff, our direct sales team are going to reach out to that end user. And now all of a sudden it's like
Yeah.
this.
I will say, yeah, sorry to cut you off there, but I will say we know exactly what you're talking about, and we're definitely not that kind of company, right? And we're doing the opposite essentially of what you're saying Dell is doing, where basically we are trying to basically make the I mean, we do have a direct sales force, but we're not competing with the channel for that business, right?
Okay.
And that without let's just say that if we were in a business meeting and with somebody who's more MSP focused, I've heard a lot of answers where the MSP folks go, okay, that sounds good, right? Things about what you're talking about, like deal registration. What happens is, is somebody going to go, what are you doing with your sales team to incentivize them to make sure that they don't try to poach an MSP deal, right? Questions like that. I think those are very valid questions to ask. And I've heard good answers to those questions, but I don't feel qualified answering them personally.
So when it comes to the $10 million, kind of policy guarantee, we want to call it, and again, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but does that then extend to the downstream end user, right? So if there's your company, there's the MSP program. So obviously there's somebody in between, and then there's the end customer. Does that go all the way down to the end customer? Meaning, does the MSP be able to say, hey, by the way, if we're going to use this solution, it comes with a $10 million policy attached. Here you go. Is that how it works? Or I just want to make sure everybody understands.
So again, I'm going to give you the same answer as I did. I think it does, but I should have asked that question of one of our MSP folks.
Okay.
And I know that we were discussing that when we were putting together the plan. And I'm happy to answer that. I'll get an answer to that question for you as soon as I can.
I'll tell you what, if the answer is yes, right? If the MSP can turn around and say, hey, by the way, not just to the end customer, but to their insurance company, right? Because MSP has to have their own, I'm sure, cyber liability and general business insurance and what have you. It's like, oh, by the way, I'm not saying they cover everything that we do, but when it comes to backups, if we're using this platform, there's this $10 million coverage or policy or guarantee that comes along with the solution. And by the way, here it is, right? Everybody can have a copy of it. You know exactly how it works. If you have any questions, we're happy to bring somebody from Druva on the line and they can explain. There's some good behind that type of story, right? Versus a lot of the times in MSP land, the concern is that the MSP is taking on risk on behalf of their vendor, right? Where if something goes wrong, right? Like the MSP is in the middle of that conversation, right? So I don't know. I don't know what the actual answer is. I hope that the answer is yes. That's how it works. I think that's a really good story. I think that if you talk to a lot of the people in and around the sandbox, they would say, I'm not getting that from the other guys out there, right? So I would love to be able to
Right.
not just use that from a peace of mind standpoint, from a, making sure, my behind is covered, but also great marketing, option as well, right? If they're, number one, we want to make sure it's real, right? But also, hey, not everybody else is offering that just like that.
Right.
So I
I'll
think
get you an answer.
that'd be great. Hi there, Keith Nelson. I forget that you have a PhD. I'm glad that you added that to your name.
Oh, it's just because I'm not very smart. It amazes people that I have one.
Nah, you're a smart guy. Keith is one of the more vocal voices in the sandbox. So we love when he jumps on. And Keith, would probably say he's probably said the word blue light special almost every time he's been on the show. So I beat him to it. But Keith, how many vendors do you work with? I know you give some sort of SLA guarantee to your end customer in your business. Not many vendors in the sandbox offer that type of offering. So like that kind of excites me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of built into our cost, but like at the ports, we have an SLA that says if dispatch is late due to system failure, we pay a penalty. It's a normal, and it was the same thing with the Boeing shop floor. That's why we make sure our systems are pretty redundant. And all I can say is since 2000 when we installed it, we haven't been fined yet. Never missed a dispatch, never missed no loss of data, no system failures, blah 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 blah. But
Pete?
from that we demand a certain amount of support. I'm not looking at price as much as making money, and those are two different things.
Yeah, Pete, if I just interject here for a second. No, that wasn't Pete. That was
Yeah.
That was Keith. Sorry. That's probably why he didn't stop talking when I said Pete. So there's SLAs and then there's the $10 million guarantee. We have SLAs for everyone, SLAs that are tied to costs, just like you talked about, or tied to penalties, whatever the right word for that is. Specifically the $10 million guarantee is basically what we did was we looked at the SLAs we were offering and we said, can we basically bundle them together into into what you see, right? But I know that we have SLAs that do apply to all customers, including MSP customers.
I
picking I think picking the right technologies that can support the demands that we have.
No, yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, the reason I even bring this up because we've had so many conversations over the last 1, 2, 3 years of, the MSP kind of getting stuck in a crap sandwich, right? The technology provider getting stuck in between somebody upstream from them and the end customer. And then, I guess if like you're not very good at making sure that your agreements are written properly and something bad happens, guess who gets smushed? The guy in between, right? So, and we talked about the rising cost of cyber liability coverages, and we've talked ad nauseum about how that's becoming more expensive and harder to get, and there's all these exclusions, and the 1-page checklist turned into the 10-page checklist, and now all of a sudden, things are a little bit scarier, right? So like, it's kind of interesting when somebody, and again, granted, Druva is now coming back into MSP land for a second run, which is great. We'll get a firm confirmation if that, offer, that guarantee applies downstream. I hope that it does, but let's say that it does. Keith, we're not seeing a lot of vendors come into the space with that type of bold proclamation, right? I mean, usually, there's a lot of, you got to dig pretty far to find out what the actual, terms of service say before you actually get to anything like that.
Yeah, I would agree. Most of them come in based on a price or some glitz, or it's usually not substantive.
Yeah. So, hey, like if this is their way back into resetting the conversation, I would definitely, if somebody's willing to at least put, it's out on their webpage, right? They're not hiding it. It's on a billboard, right?
Right.
Maybe that starts a different trend in the sandbox, right? Where vendors are like, hey, listen, we're really confident about our solution, so much so that we're willing to offer X, right? Could be a new way to do business in the sandbox. I don't
I
know.
think it's a new, different way where you're seeing a lot of consolidation where they're basically saying, here's the terms, or you don't do business with us. And there's a lot of that right now in the marketplace, and a lot of frustration I could see.
I think you were pretty vocal online recently about some challenges you've been having. I don't know. Did you ever get resolution on that, by the way? Did you ever get an answer?
Yeah. I mean, the resolution is, I mean, they corrected the billing issues and just said, let's part ways.
Okay. Well,
And I said, okay, I'm okay with that.
it took a lot of effort on your part to get that sorted, right? Which is coming back to Curtis, right? If you can take any advice from people who do business in MSP land, or again, the sandbox, being able to get a hold of someone when there's an issue, whatever it is, right? Whether it's technical, billing, account management, whatever. And then like actually getting some sort of resolution in a timely manner rather than constantly knocking on the door, trying to figure out what's going on, right? I mean, I know that sounds silly and probably pretty straightforward, but man, so many people just crash at that point, in the conversation.
It should be pretty straightforward, but it isn't always the case, right? So I'm happy to say that basically I hear good things from our side of the fence. So meaning that from a darn it, there is an acronym. What is the net promoter score, right? Our net promoter score is very high, and we get very good scores on our customer service, right? And we do have a dedicated team with the for MSPs, and so you have somebody that you can always call, and that team is sized pretty well for the number of MSPs we have, and as the number of MSPs grows, that team should grow. Because I agree with you.
Are you like, if I don't know if you know this number, I'm going to ask anyway. Would you say the majority of your business is based here in North America, or like what's the percentage of North American versus the rest of the world?
I don't know that number because again, I focus mainly on the technical side, but I know that we started in North America and have expanded abroad. So I would assume that the majority is here, but I know we are having a significant amount of growth in many other countries. So, and we have a physical, we're not, one of the mistakes American companies make when they go abroad is they're going to run things from here. We're not doing that, right? We have physical presence in a lot of, we have physical presence in APAC, in Europe, and other places. I don't want to throw out some names because I know we have some other places, but I don't want to be wrong. But I know that we're not trying to run everything from here, and I know that we've been very successful abroad.
Not everybody can be in sunny San Diego.
Not everybody can be in sunny San Diego, which hasn't been very sunny for the last month, by the way. It's been, I don't know if you've heard.
If 11 out of 12 months of the year, it's pretty nice. I still think you got me beat here in Philadelphia area.
Exactly.
And listen, if you're interested in switching places during the wintertime, you know where to find me.
Well, I have lived in your neck of the woods, and I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same thing too when it comes to the weather topic. Do you guys pop up, or do you plan to pop up at industry events around MSP land, or have you not gone down that road yet?
That is a great question that I will also ask. But I know that we are at many industry events. But I really should have just had my MSP come on instead of me, but
it's all good. Well, so if they can't see it at some point, hopefully they'll bump into you in person or your team. Where do they find more information about the company and maybe the MSP program, and like who would they reach out to get more information?
Yeah. So obviously druva.com is the website, druva.com. And they can reach out directly to me, and then I will happy to forward them. And I'm curtis.preston@druva.com. And also, if you're interested in my podcast, I have two, which is the Restore It All podcast. That's my independent podcast that I've had for a while. And then I also do the No Hardware Required podcast for Druva.
Oh,
So.
no hardware required. I like that. That's actually pretty trendy. That's good. I love that everybody's like in creator mode. That's kind of the way things are working these days. And I love people doing even their own personal one. Dude, that's pretty cool. I'm glad to hear that you're doing that. So for anybody that hasn't heard of Druva, check out druva.com. Connect with Curtis online. I'm sure he's on all the platforms. Curtis Preston, do a search. I'm sure he'll pop up. Check out the two podcasts. Of course, this session was recorded. We'll have this posted online pretty soon. And then hopefully we'll find, we'll get some of the answers that Curtis said he was going to look up for us, and we'll share them with you once we have them. And then that way you'll have a little bit more, information. And man, the thing I keep gravitating to, because it's like right on the main page, can't avoid it, is like right center, $10 million guarantee. I think it just sounds really good. I don't know. I like it. I really like it a lot. So, Keith Nelson, hope everything is well with you, sir. Hopefully we'll see you soon somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Need to catch
By
up.
the way, how was Chicago? I know you went out there for CompTIA.
Hey, it was great. Ken was there, so he makes the party.
Sure does. Sure does. And we'll be seeing Ken here pretty shortly as well, because we love to do things in the sandbox collectively. So always a good time. Stay tuned. We'll be making some more announcements, but check out everything that we do at mspinitiative.com. And we will continue seeing you on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1:00 Eastern time. Catch you guys on the next one. And Curtis, very nice to meet you, sir. And hopefully be talking to you soon.
Absolutely.
Have a good one, guys. Take it easy.